Have you ever stopped to think that maybe nothing in your life was a mistake? That every step, even the ones you call failures, are actually part of something much bigger? This video will blow your mind, because what you're about to hear here isn't just another pretty phrase, it's a real turning point. Existence makes no mistakes, and you are already living proof that you are worthy. How many times have you felt small, out of place, or even thought you didn't deserve certain things? Yes, this is the trap that traps millions of people every day. But what if I told you that the simple fact that you're here breathing proves your incalculable worth, that the universe doesn't waste energy on anything that isn't necessary, that changes everything? What you'll discover in this video is the answer to that question that keeps coming back. Am I enough? Do I deserve it? The answer is clear, yes. And we'll dismantle, point by point, the lies that led you to believe otherwise. Alan Watts brings such powerful insight that after listening, you'll never look at your mistakes and missteps the same way again. So get ready, because what comes next isn't empty motivation. It's proof that you already have what you've been searching for. From now on, every detail of your life will begin to make sense, and you'll understand once and for all that existence never fails. And once that sinks into your mind, nothing will ever be the same again. What you just heard has already begun to transform the way you see your own life. Now you know that existence makes no mistakes, and that your dignity doesn't depend on anything external. It's already yours. This kind of revelation can't be kept to yourself. Show gratitude for this impact by clicking Enjoy, that's it. Subscribing to the channel to continue receiving truths that uplift and strengthen. This is how you ensure this transformation doesn't stop here, and also help others awaken to the same power you've just accessed. Have you ever noticed how we have this habit of thinking things only make sense when they're exactly how we imagined them? Anything that doesn't go as planned, we quickly label it a mistake, a failure, something it wasn't meant to happen. But what if life weren't at all concerned with this logic we create? What if, in fact, nothing was by chance and not even the stumbles were off script? That's exactly what Alan Watts argued. Existence makes no mistakes. Sounds strange to hear, right? Because our minds are already programmed to believe that something only has value when it meets our expectations. But life doesn't work that way. Think of a tree. There are those that grow straight, perfect, almost as if they were molded. And then there are those that are crooked, full of irregular branches, with bark marked by time. Which of the two is wrong? Neither. Each tree is exactly as it should be. The crooked tree isn't failing. It's fulfilling its role in the world the way it was meant to be. And now stop and think, if we can accept that the crooked tree is also part of the forest's balance, why is it so difficult to accept that our own lives, with all their deviations, are also part of something that makes sense? That's where the provocation comes in. Perhaps the moments you most wanted to erase from your history are precisely the ones that brought you here. That decision that seemed wrong, that relationship that ended painfully, that job you lost when you least expected it. At the time, it's obvious that it hurts, that it's outrageous, that it seems unfair. But time shows that without these accidents, nothing you're experiencing today would have come together. It's not easy to accept, because we learned from an early age to measure everything with a ruler and compare it to the lives of others. But looking carefully, you can see that each piece, however strange or painful it may have been, was part of a bigger picture. And look, it's normal to think, okay, but what about those heavy things that happened to me? How could that not be a mistake? That's the question everyone asks, because we confuse pain with failure. Pain is pain. You can't romanticize it. But pain doesn't mean existence failed you. What hurts isn't proof that life failed, but rather a sign that there was something there that needed to move you somewhere else. Maybe to shatter an illusion, maybe to force growth, maybe to open a path you never would have taken on your own. It's not comfortable, and it doesn't have to be. But the point is that even pain has a purpose, and this completely changes the way we look at our choices. How many times have you blamed yourself, thought you'd messed up? What if, deep down, there was no such thing as messing up? What exists is experience, learning, and consequences. We don't control everything, but we interpret it all the time. The problem is that we interpret life as if it were a test full of rights and wrongs, when in reality, it's an ongoing process. Alan Watts said that life is like a dance. You don't dance to get somewhere, you dance because you're in the music, you move with the rhythm. And that's what makes sense, understanding that the value isn't in the destination, but in how each step is part of the choreography. It's funny because sometimes we look back and think, wow, if I had done things differently, everything would be better. But is that really true? Maybe it was that one unusual detail that paved the way for you to become who you are today. Think about your life now. Remember a situation you'd like to erase. Maybe a decision, a friendship, an opportunity you missed. Imagine for a second what it would be like if none of that had happened. The version of you that exists today wouldn't exist. And then the question arises, can you even call that a mistake? Do you know what would be interesting? Write the word here in the comments tree. I want to see who truly understands this idea that even the crooked, the irregular, is part of life's beauty. Whoever writes tree will show that they understand that there is no such thing as perfection as we idealize. There is only what is. And that is already perfect in its own way. What Alan Watts wanted to make clear is that life isn't testing you, isn't waiting for you to pass some secret test. Life simply happens. And if you're in it, breathing, walking, living, it's because you're already part of this flawlessly functioning machine. Even the days when nothing seems to be going right, even the times when you feel lost, all of this has space. All of this is absorbed by the flow of existence. Nothing is wasted. And this is where the big turning point comes. When you understand that there is no such thing as chance, that there is no such thing as error, you stop fighting life. You start seeing each situation as part of a process. This doesn't mean settling, but rather realizing that you can flow with what happens instead of feeling overwhelmed by it. Fighting what has already happened only creates more pain, while acceptance opens space for seeing new possibilities. Now think about it. If nothing in existence is a mistake, then the simple fact that you're here, at this very moment, listening to this, is no coincidence either. Perhaps right now is the point in your life when you needed to hear this message. And what follows will deepen this idea even further, because understanding that nothing is by chance is just the beginning. You know that feeling that you constantly need to prove that you deserve to be where you are, that you need to achieve something, be recognized, reach goals, hit numbers, please people, just to finally feel worthy. Well, this is one of the biggest traps we fall into. The truth is, you don't need to prove anything to be worthy, because you were born with that value. It's not a title someone grants. It's not a medal you earn after fighting hard. It's something that's already there from the moment you arrived in this world. Alan Watts had a very clear vision about this. The mere fact that you exist is proof that existence wanted, needed, and chose you. And that changes everything. Because when you harbor the idea that you need to achieve dignity, you end up living under constant pressure. Nothing is ever enough because there will always be one more step, one more goal, one more level to reach. But dignity isn't just there, waiting for you to arrive. It's already within you, right now. The mistake is believing that your existence only has value when you achieve certain results. It's like thinking the sun only matters when it's shining brightly in the sky, not when it's behind the clouds. The sun doesn't lose value because it's covered. And you don't lose value either when you're going through phases where you don't seem to be shining. To prove this, look around you. Everything that exists has a place. No leaf is wasted. No raindrop falls for nothing. Do you really think it would be any different for you? If you exist, it's because life wanted you to be here. And life makes no mistakes, remember. This is already the strongest proof you could have. It doesn't matter if someone rejected you, if a relationship ended, if a job didn't work out, if your family didn't support you. The universe doesn't need their approval to confirm what is already written. You are worthy from the first breath. The problem is that we grow up hearing the opposite. As children, you learn that you need to be good to deserve love. You need to get good grades to deserve recognition. You need to obey to deserve affection. And this pattern repeats itself in adulthood, only the names change. Now it's goals at work, validation in relationships, numbers in the bank account. But deep down it's the same logic, and this logic is false, because it makes you believe you need to earn dignity, when in reality it was never up for grabs. Think about it. If you were in a desert and found a dirty diamond covered in dust, would you say it lost its value? Of course not. You know it's still a diamond, it just needs to be cleaned. Now answer me, why do you think your dignity disappears when life covers you in dust? The answer is simple. It doesn't. It remains there intact. You don't lose value because of the situations you go through. You just forget to look at what already belongs to you. And I want you to do something right now. Write the word in the comments, Diamante. This will be your personal reminder that no matter what, you remain valuable, even when life seems to have buried you in difficulties. I want to see who will make this commitment to remind themselves that they were born worthy. This understanding brings lightness, because when you free yourself from the need to constantly prove you're enough, you begin to live more authentically. You stop forcing yourself into places you weren't meant to be just to get validation. You stop wasting energy trying to convince people who will never recognize what's already obvious. And most importantly, you begin to accept your own presence as legitimate. You are here, and that's enough. Now, of course, the question arises, if I'm already worthy, why do I so often feel like I've failed? Why does it seem like I've made so many mistakes in life? This is the mind's trap, which loves to turn experiences into tests against you. But are these experiences really mistakes? Or is the real error in believing that worthiness depends on the outcome? Because if life doesn't make mistakes, as we saw before, isn't it our own perspective that's distorted? And that's precisely what will lead us to the next point, understanding that the error lies in the idea of error. Because perhaps it's not life that failed, but the way we were taught to look at it. Now let's face one of the biggest illusions we harbor, the idea that mistakes exist. Think about it. From an early age, we learn to live within a system that only sees two possible paths, right and wrong. If you got the answer right on the test, great, congratulations. If you got it wrong, that's it. You've already earned a red X marking your failure. This shapes our minds, and we grow up believing that life works this way too, as if it were a test where each choice can be judged as right or wrong. But reality isn't like that. Life isn't evaluating you with a red pen. This idea of error is a fabrication of our minds, a label we create for situations that didn't turn out the way we'd hoped. Look, when a river changes course, do you think it's making a mistake? Of course not. It just found another path to keep flowing. But when you change course in life, the first thing your mind does is accuse you. Look, you messed up, you made a mistake, you messed up. Why do we accept the natural movement in nature, but not when it happens to us? Perhaps because we've been trained to believe that only what follows the pattern is valid. But life isn't a straight line, but a process full of curves, detours, and discoveries. And it's not just in nature. Think about humanity's greatest inventions. How many scientists went through hundreds of failed attempts before reaching the final discovery? But were they really mistakes, or were they necessary steps to achieve the result? The problem is that we look at our own lives and forget that it works the same way. You're not accumulating failures. You're accumulating experiences that connect over time. It's like putting together a puzzle without the final image. At first it seems like nothing fits, but little by little you realize that even the pieces that seemed useless have their place. What really hurts isn't the situation itself, but the judgment we make of it. When you call something a mistake, you create a mental prison. You start carrying guilt, shame, regret, and these feelings weigh you down, hinder you, and sap your energy from moving forward. Now, when you understand that there are no mistakes, just events that are part of the flow of life, you lift a huge weight from your shoulders. You stop fighting the past and start seeing each experience as part of a building process. I'll give you a very straightforward example. Imagine you entered a relationship that ended badly. You can look back and say, I was wrong to get involved, and live with that burden. Or you can understand that that experience taught you lessons you never would have learned otherwise. What seemed like a mistake was actually a stepping stone for your growth. Just because it hurt doesn't mean it was in vain. It means you went through something that transformed you. And here I want you to participate actively. Comment on the word Rio down here. This will be our code to mark those who understand that life flows like water, and that changing direction is not a mistake, it's just movement. I want to see who will have the courage to admit this to themselves. Now, stop and think. How many times have you been trapped in a regret that only existed in your head? How many sleepless nights did you have because you believed you messed up badly? Maybe life simply put you on a different path, and you wasted energy blaming yourself for something that wasn't your fault. The mistake isn't in what happened, but in how you interpreted it. This is the mind's great trick, creating stories that make you believe you failed, when in reality, you simply lived. And this is the key. When you understand that, error is just an idea, a mental invention. You open yourself to acceptance. You stop seeing life as a test and start seeing it as a process. And this process isn't against you, it's happening with you. It's at this point that everything begins to change, because acceptance is the first step to peace. And that's precisely what we're going to delve into now. The word acceptance often scares many people, because it seems like accepting is the same as resigning yourself, folding your arms, and letting life pass you by. But that's not the case. Accepting doesn't mean giving up. It means stopping fighting what already is. And that, oddly enough, is the first step to finding peace. Because let's be honest, how much energy have you spent trying to change things that already happened? How much time have you spent dwelling on the past, blaming yourself, imagining 1,000 different versions of what you could have done? None of this changes what happened. It only increases the weight you carry. It's like pulling a rope against a wall. No matter how hard you try, the wall won't budge. Alan Watts had a very clear view on this. Life doesn't need your approval to keep happening. It already follows its own course. What you can choose is whether you'll go through it at war with everything or whether you'll learn to flow. And when you choose to flow, it's not that problems disappear. It's that you learn to deal with them more easily. Acceptance is recognizing, okay, this happened. This is real and I can move on from here. It's liberating because it removes the burden of trying to control the uncontrollable. Consider a simple example. You missed a bus. It makes you angry, frustrated, and you want to blame yourself for leaving home 2 minutes late. But none of these emotions will bring the bus back. It's already gone. What can you do? Accept that you missed that one and wait for the next one. When you don't accept it, you sit there upset, complaining, creating drama. And in the end, you're the one who suffers. Acceptance cuts through this unnecessary suffering. It seems silly with a bus, but it's exactly the same logic for bigger things in life. And of course, accepting doesn't mean finding everything wonderful. You may feel sadness, anger, frustration, that's part of it. The point is not to hold on to these feelings as if they were eternal. Accepting is saying, it hurts, but I recognize that this is part of it, and I'm moving on. This takes you out of the victim position and puts you in control of your own response. And here's the curious thing. When you accept, the pain loses its power, because much of suffering comes precisely from resistance, from that inner voice that screams, this couldn't be happening to me. Now let me break the ice a bit. Everyone has had a moment when they struggled with reality, right? That phase where you keep asking yourself, why did this happen to me? As if there were a secret explanation. If you've ever experienced this, comment here. Peace. I want to see who is truly willing to transform this internal struggle into a path of lightness. Just by writing this word, you begin to mentally reinforce the choice to seek peace instead of fighting. Accepting isn't easy, I know. We've been trained to believe that everything needs to be under control, that we have to have answers for everything. But life is bigger than our plans. And when you understand this, when you make room to simply let things be, you gain a kind of peace that doesn't depend on circumstances. It's that peace that comes from within, because you're no longer wasting energy against the tide. And you know what's most powerful? When you accept, you see new possibilities. What seemed like the end can turn out to be a new beginning. What seemed unfair can push you to a place you never would have gone alone. But you can only see this when you stop fighting reality. It's as if life is constantly offering you paths, but you don't see them because you're too busy fighting what's already happened. And here comes an important turning point. If acceptance is the first step to peace, then even pain can be transformed into something valuable. Suffering doesn't have to be an eternal punishment. It can become wisdom. And that's precisely what we'll talk about next, because when you learn to transform pain into wisdom, your outlook on life will never be the same again. The truth is, no one likes pain. It's uncomfortable. It takes the floor. Away, it makes us want to escape as quickly as possible. But there's something almost no one realizes. Pain can be one of life's most powerful teachers. It's hard to say this, because when you're in the middle of it, all you want is for it to end. But take an honest look at your past. Weren't the most difficult moments precisely the ones that shaped who you are today? Weren't those situations you thought you couldn't handle that ended up giving you strength you didn't even know you had? That's the secret. Pain, when understood, transforms into wisdom. Alan Watts said that life isn't about running from pain, but about learning from it, because it doesn't just appear. Every painful situation is like a wake-up call from existence, showing you that there was something in you that needed to be polished. Think of a rough diamond. It doesn't have the same shine until it's been cut and polished. It's in the friction, the pressure, that true value emerges. We function this way too. Only, instead of accepting the process, we try to run, hide, deny it. And then the pain lingers, grows worse because resistance multiplies the suffering. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine you've lost someone important or gone through a painful breakup. At first, everything seems to fall apart. There's emptiness, tears, and anger. But over time, you realize that this grief taught you to value the people around you more, to not waste time on small things, to take care of yourself. Pain becomes a kind of filter that reveals what truly matters. Without it, you might never have awakened to this. It doesn't mean it was good to suffer, but it does mean it wasn't useless. It's like a fire that burns, but also purifies. And the choice you have is this: to remain stuck in the burning sensation, or to allow this fire to illuminate areas of your life that were previously hidden. Every difficulty, no matter how absurd it may seem, carries a message within it. And wisdom comes precisely from stopping and asking, what is this trying to show me? And here I want to open a moment of participation with you. Think about a pain you've experienced that, in some way, brought you learning. It might have been a disappointment, a loss, a frustration. Write the word in the comments. Strength to show that you understand how pain, despite its cruelty, can create something valuable within you. This simple gesture will serve as a reminder that every difficulty has a hidden purpose. Of course, it's not easy to look at pain from this perspective. The instinct is to want to run away, to want to erase it. But when you have the courage to face it, you realize that it didn't come to destroy you, but to rebuild you in a new way. And you know what the best part is? Once you transform pain into wisdom, no one can take it away from you. The learning remains. You become more resilient, more aware, more prepared, and you begin to understand that even what seemed impossible to bear was, in the end, a push for your growth. Now think with me. If even pain can be transformed into wisdom, that means there's no such thing as wasted experience. Everything counts, everything builds. And if life doesn't make mistakes, as we saw earlier, even the darkest phases are part of this perfect mechanism. And that's exactly where the bottom line of this line of reasoning comes in. The simple fact that you're here, alive, breathing, is already the greatest proof that you're needed. And that's what we're going to talk about next. There comes a point when you have to face the truth head-on. The mere fact that you're here is the greatest proof that you're needed. It may sound obvious, but think about it. If existence doesn't make mistakes, then your life isn't an accident. No matter what anyone has said about you, no matter if you've been rejected, criticized, or even forgotten at some point, the universe wastes nothing. You're part of a much larger puzzle, and without your piece, the picture isn't complete. It's that simple. How many times have you felt like you didn't make a difference? Maybe at a job where no one recognized your efforts, in a friendship that didn't value your presence, or even within your own family, where it seemed like your voice carried no weight. This feeling of uselessness hurts, I know, but it's not true, because the reality is that you're already impacting people without realizing it. A smile you gave, a word you spoke at the right moment, even your silent presence can have already changed someone's day. You may not even see it, but it's happening. Alan Watts said that we don't arrive in the universe. We are the universe expressing itself in human form. This means you're not a random visitor. You're part of the very machinery that keeps everything running. It's as if the cosmos decided it needed you to exist in this way. So when doubt strikes and you wonder if you have value, the answer is already right before your eyes. You exist. Therefore you are necessary. And look, you don't have to be famous, you don't have to be featured in major feats to be important. Most transformations in people's lives happen through small gestures. Remember a time when someone helped you with something simple, but it made a huge difference? You've done that for someone too. And this is the kind of thing that shows that your life isn't disposable, because the impact you make spreads like ripples on a lake. You touch people you may never see again, but who will carry something of you with them forever. Let me ask you something now. Comment on the word trial down here. It's like a personal commitment that you understood this message, because when you write this, it's not just any interaction. It's a reminder to yourself that your life is the greatest proof that existence never fails. I want to see who will have the courage to admit this in public. And there's more. When you understand that it's necessary, you stop comparing your trajectory to others. You begin to realize that your mission is unique and you don't need to compete with anyone. It's like an orchestra. Each instrument has its role. The violin doesn't try to be the piano, and the piano doesn't try to be the drums. But they're all necessary for the music to exist. Likewise, you don't need to be someone else to be important. Your presence already makes a difference just as it is. What you just heard has already changed the way you see yourself and your own life. Now you know that there is no mistake in your existence, that every detail has a purpose, and that your presence is already the greatest proof that you are worthy. This content brought clarity, strength, and opened the space for you to see yourself with a new value. And that's why it makes sense to spread this transformation. When you click enjoy, that's it. Subscribe to the channel. You ensure that more people receive this same truth that just impacted you. And to mark that, this message has truly been engraved in your heart. Comment on the word worthy down here. Now the journey doesn't stop here. The next video, already on screen, will take this reflection even deeper, with revelations that will further change your outlook on life and your role in the world. You've already felt what this message did within you, so imagine what's about to come. What comes next isn't just a continuation, it's the next level, and you'll want to be there when this new truth is revealed.